Hi, I'm Alexander Elassall with OmegaCor Technologies. Today, I want to answer a few questions about risk. Most organizations assume their security is good enough. So, where are things actually going wrong? In most cases, it's not the technology that's failing, it's how it's used day to day. Risk usually comes from inconsistency, not broken systems. Organizations invest in the right tools and assume that means they're secure, but there's often no clear definition of what secure behavior actually looks like. So on the surface, everything seems fine. Underneath, people are working in different ways, making judgment calls. And once inconsistency appears, risk starts to build. What does that actually look like in a real organization? Most of the time, it looks like an environment that works, which is why it gets missed. Systems are in place, people can do their jobs, nothing feels obviously broken, but a closer look and patterns emerge. Personal devices are used without clear rules, passwords get reused or shared, access is granted, rarely reviewed, mobile phones are relied on for authentication without being treated as part of security. None of those are major on their own. Together they create inconsistency, and that's where control breaks down. Where does something like SIM cloning fit into this, and why is it becoming such a concern? So SIM cloning isn't really a new tech issue. It's an assumption issue. If someone takes control of your phone number, they receive calls, messages, and authentication codes meant for your employee. So if your organization relies on text messages for security, that protection can be bypassed without touching your systems. Nothing technically fails. The tools work as designed, but the assumption that this phone equals this person is broken. That's where the real risk comes from. What patterns do you tend to see when things start to break down? One of the biggest patterns is assuming everyone shares the definition of secure when they don't. People make judgment calls based on speed and convenience. Mobile devices are treated as personal, even when they're central to security. Access builds up over time, but rarely gets reviewed. None of these feel urgent by themselves. Combined, they quietly increase risk. Most of the time, it's a consistency problem. Organizations already have the tools they need. What's missing is clear, shared standards for how those tools are used. Tools don't reduce risk on their own. Consistent behavior does. When standards aren't clear, risk is in control. So where should leaders start if they're thinking about this? Start with visibility. Not more tools or policies, but understanding where behavior is inconsistent. Look at how personal devices are actually being used, where mobile numbers tie into security, how access is granted and reviewed, what people do with those passwords. Clarity comes from reality, not assumption, and clarity is what creates consistency. What if someone isn't sure how consistent their environment actually is right now? If you're unsure, that's usually where the risk is. Most leaders don't see the gaps until they're made visible. That's why we created the Employee Security Risk Assessment. It gives you a clear view on inconsistencies across your devices, access, and everyday behavior, including personal phones. It takes only a few minutes, but shows you exactly where your biggest risks are and what to prioritize next.